This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so hopefully no feedback. I muted laptop. I'm speaking into this mic. And hopefully you can hear me. And they are all on.
Yes, Councilman O'Connell?
I am here.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So the time is now 7:30, and this is the July 9th, 2020 work session of the Allendale Mayor and Council. Welcome to everyone who's joining us via video and teleconference. We ask that you please mute your devices at this time so as not to distract from the business of the meeting. There'll be several opportunities for the public to be heard tonight, and we will advise you at the appropriate times. Michelle, please read the Open Public Meeting Act announcement.
Sure. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the municipal building, published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year, and copies are sent to the Ridgewood News and Star Ledger.
Great, thank you. And Michelle, please conduct the roll call.
Sure. Councilwoman Homan? Here. Councilman O'Connell?
Here.
Councilman O'Toole?
Here.
Councilman Sasso?
Here.
Councilman Strouch?
Here.
Great,
Councilwoman Wilsinski?
Here.
And Mayor Bernstein.
Great, I'm here. Thank you very much. So for those of you that recall, you've been here before, there's 3 opportunities to speak. This is the first of the 3 for the public to comment. So anyone from the public wishing to speak, please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have a 5-minute time limit to address the governing body. There will be 2 other times to speak. Hi,
Hello.
Kristen.
Hello,
Hi.
Kristen, 74 Heights. How's everybody?
Hello.
We're fine, thank you. It's good to see you.
After last week's meeting where we were talking a lot about the 220-230 sale, I did have a chance to read a lot of the minutes and listen to the audio call, a couple of the audio calls from the past few months. And I just have, I have some specific questions which I sent to Amy and Ari today. So I'm not going to cover those, but what I wanted to ask about is now that the ordinance 20-11 has passed as of last week, is the matter sufficiently resolved so that we could see the minutes from that April 16th closed session? It says that those minutes are attorney-client privilege until the matter is resolved. And so I was wondering, when can we expect to see those minutes?
So good question. I'm going to look to our borough attorney. And Ray, did you hear the question? Do you want it repeated?
Yeah, I did hear it. I would think the answer to the question is in short order after the public business on tonight's agenda. I would think that it is more likely than not that the answer to the question will be at the meeting immediately following this one.
So, Kristen, could you hear his answer?
I can hear his answer. I'm just asked, so does that mean like after tonight's meeting around like 9 o'clock you're going to post it, or you mean tomorrow or whatever it'll be posted?
My answer really would be before the next meeting. Certainly not 9 o'clock this evening, but I would say a fair response would be sometime before the next meeting and more likely than not next week.
So,
Before the next July 23rd meeting.
Right.
Okay, I thought you meant though 8 o'clock tonight. That was confusing. Okay, all right, thank you. A couple questions related specifically to the agenda tonight with that purchase agreement. I don't know if you can share this or not. Did the increases in the number of units and the number of floors of the residential part of the building in 220, did that result in a larger purchase price for us from Hampshire? Did it increase our pilot payment that we should be expecting from them? I know that the last estimate that I saw last year was something around 380,000 that we were expecting. So I'm wondering if that was increased now that we've allowed them to increase the number of units and increase the number of floors. And then the last part of this is, when does the public actually get to see the financial terms of the deal with Hampshire?
So Ray, I would first look to you.
Well, on the ability to see the full financial terms, I would say as soon as this meeting is concluded, the amended purchase and sale agreement, if approved by the governing body, then would be available in the public domain. Logistically, do I know whether that means tomorrow or Monday? But there would be some immediacy attached to that.
Okay, good. And then as to the other part of the question as to whether or not the increase in units, and Amy, I know if you want to speak or Ray can speak, I think the other question, and to the extent it's public comment or a question that we either can or want to answer here.
Well, I would, and I will defer obviously to Councilwoman Wilczynski on some of this, but my recollection is in terms of the height parameters, the more important component was not the floors, but that was that in no event would the building height exceed what was originally contemplated, which I recall to be 48 feet. So I don't think that there was any change at all in the height parameters. So one would not anticipate that there would be any revenue associated with changing the building height. The increase in units from 60 to 70, as I think was explained at the last meeting, in the context of the amended RDP, that was really a function of keeping this deal together in light of very, very changed economic circumstances based upon, in part, the COVID pandemic that we're going through. So I think that all of the financial parameters were maintained. If I recall right, there is an escalator provision that has been added to this draft that could result in future revenue increases. But I would say that the fair comment was that the addition of the 10 units did not result in an increase in the purchase price, but it kept the purchase price where it was before. It was more a way to keep the deal in line in light of the changed economic circumstances. So the bottom line answer is that the contract price is as it originally was drafted.
Right. Amy, would you like to speak to that as well?
No, I think Ray said it perfectly.
Okay,
And
great.
the escalator provision, is that something to do with the pilot payment, the escalator?
The escalator has to do with the pilot, and that's on the back building. And so we actually kind of, put in a safety net, so we would be getting exactly what we had in the past plus 2% as a safety net, if you will, if the pilot tends to drop below our existing tax revenue. And as far as the pilot for the front building, the increase in 10 units will definitely increase the pilot as well.
Okay, thank you.
Because it's based on revenue.
Right, okay. All right, and then the last thing, maybe this is for Councilman Sasso, I don't know, but whoever wants to jump in. Can you explain why you would do, or why we would get the results of the traffic study that we talked about at last meeting? Why would we get that after the purchase agreement is already signed with the builder? What does the land use board, what can they do if the traffic and noise is so bad that it's deemed unreasonable or dangerous or unacceptable just to the local residents? What at that point can we do when we've already agreed to 70 residential units and the warehouse in the back?
So I'm going, Steve, just bear with me first. So then I'll let you speak. In terms of, I'm going to first defer to our attorney who negotiated the deal largely with us. So if you want to speak to the function of the land use board as part of the government approval process in this contract.
Yeah, I would anticipate that there will be not only the local approval as it relates to traffic and traffic flow, but since the project abuts a county road, there will be simultaneous county approval on that. So that the traffic aspects would definitely, to my mind, be one of the elements of the application to be made by the developer to the land use board. So those parameters and the safety measures and issues like traffic flow and whether additional curb cuts are required, whether lights are required, those are the type of things that one would normally contemplate would be part of the local approval application. So I think that we would see all of those levels of detail and the public would have the ability to comment on that. And I would envision that the developer as the applicant would have a traffic safety engineer testifying at the hearing to show and to indicate to the community at large how traffic flow would be handled.
And this contract is contingent upon those government approvals being obtained, and included in those government approvals will be a full application to the land use board in front of the public, and an opportunity for the public to ask questions and be heard, and for the obligation for the applicant to put on their case, which will include traffic studies.
So that the applicant pays for the traffic studies and brings their experts to prove to us for local and county approvals.
That would typically be the case, that they would present an expert to show how their design would show curb cuts, traffic flow, access, egress, and those would be the considerations that, among others, the land use board would take into account in deciding on the project itself.
Great, thank you very much.
Good, and I didn't mean to stop either Councilwoman Wazinski or Councilman Sasso from speaking. So if either of you have something that you want to add to that, I want to give you the opportunity.
If Kristen's satisfied, I'm satisfied.
Amy, you good?
Yep, all good.
Good. Okay, great. Erica, yes. State your name and address for the public.
Okay. Erica Lewenberg, 100 Midwood Avenue. And once again, I really would like to start off by acknowledging and thanking you all for, I know, the hard work and the time that this has taken to negotiate and work on the sale of 220 and 230. And I know that, as a vision committee, we met for about a year, and that's been some time since we met. And I did go on the website and checked the 220, 230 on the website, and that has not been updated since June. So I would have liked to have had the opportunity maybe for us to discuss and ask questions and do all of this prior to the decision having been made and, being the 11th hour. That having been said, I was hoping that moving forward, that on the website, that there might be a regular update, like maybe a monthly update or something like that, telling us what's going on, if and when it's going to go before, the traffic study, what's being done, and, if we can have that information at our fingertips so that we can read it, when we have time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm huge on transparency. So, we apologize if we couldn't keep everybody as up to date as we would have liked. The project just had so many moving parts, and we had to make decisions, on the fly sometimes, and go through all of these documents and things like that. And we were still in our due diligence period for so long. So we didn't have a signed contract. So we were working off of, just a contract that really wasn't going to stand up. And we were very, very concerned that we would, lose this developer and lose this project. So we were just very hesitant what to put up there. But now, since we're going to be moving forward and it looks like everything's intact, we will definitely be able to update that website on a more regular basis.
So when I look at,
I would think, if I can just add, I would
Sure.
think that it's a general matter, and also based on the questions that are being posed, the public would be most interested in seeing the application when it actually has particulars in it and levels of detail. And that's exactly what happens before the land use board. And I think that that's the opportunity for everyone to see exactly what the developer is envisioning in the particulars of the project. And the hearings itself before the land use board require public notice. So I'm sure that the borough can amplify and double down on advising the community when it's going before the land use board. And then all of those materials, by definition, the developer has to make public. And of course, there will be public hearings where that level of detail will be presented. I mean, right now you sort of have a project in gross, where what the aspects of it are, but the level of detail isn't there until the developer presents it at the land use board.
Great.
so this is part of my my question in terms of the process, right? Which is that when the land was acquired, the information that I have before me was that it originally was for constructing 20 housing units on 220 consisting of 4 low and moderate income housing and 13 senior citizen housing units and 3 emergency responder units. We did, as a vision committee, talk about 48 units then, and 20 of those units being for seniors. And then, you know, fast forward to now, it's 70 units and nothing for the seniors. So I guess, again, trying to move forward and look at kind of where we are there any thoughts about this growing population? You know, we know that senior citizens, people are living longer, and that we are having probably about 10% more seniors in about 10 years. I don't know the exact statistics, but are there thoughts about how we can, in Allendale, meet the needs, not just of low-income seniors, but seniors who want to stay in the community and who want to live in a smaller unit? That seems to have been lost from the original plan, and I'm wondering how we could, if there's any way to recover that.
I mean, I'd like to respond to that. I'd like to just go back to that time, because the goal and the global view of purchasing that property was to maintain the character of Allendale, and it was to provide for orderly development, and it was also to safeguard us from builder's remedy, which many towns are going through right now, and having to build hundreds and hundreds of units. And at the same time, we secured our fair share housing obligation up to 2025, and we only had to build in this one area, not in multiple areas around town. And by doing all that, we also got to fulfill a community need of putting in a community center, by having the library expand for people to use the library, which everybody loves so much, and putting in a senior center, community/senior center. So, you know, there was definitely a lot of give and take with this. Would we have loved 20 units? Sure, but you can't find a developer out there that's going to build 20 units, 6 of them being Mount Laurel. When you usually have a number of Mount Laurel that you need, you have to multiply that number, you know, at least by 4. But I feel that we really try to negotiate the best deal possible. Would we have loved to have it all seniors? Sure, but that's not the market out there. There's not a good market for senior housing in this area. It's not as lucrative as having regular houses. But with that said, there's no reason why a senior wouldn't want to go live in that development. I mean, it's 55 and over. There's probably most of us on this call right now. I know I'm almost there, can fit the bill to move into that unit, because it is a great location. It's going to have a senior community center in it. It's right down the road from restaurants that they can walk to and shops they can walk to. It's right down the road from, you know, the bus and the train and Crestwood Lake. So I think it's a great opportunity for seniors to move in there. And remember, our senior units that were there were all market rate anyway. There was one that was supposed to be supposed to be moderate, and then our fair share housing folks came back and said, sorry, you can't do that anymore. You know, we had to reconfigure that. But they were all always going to be regular market price. So I still think it's a viable. I mean, I would call up all your senior friends and tell them exactly when it's going to be built and get on the list so they can sign up.
And could we market then to that population? How does that work then?
Well, we actually were, you know, when this law came up, this federal housing law, we, you know, like I think I mentioned at the last meeting, we did hire a 55 and over attorney just to make sure it was really true. And even our developer kind of didn't really necessarily know about it in the very beginning, but the fact that we knew about it, if they market it that way and then somebody comes and says that you're discriminating against families and marketing for seniors, I think that might be a problem. Okay. But that's really it's their unit, so they would be marketing it. But when I said go tell your friends, I didn't mean like do a marketing campaign, just call them myself.
Gotta give me the boundaries.
Let's make that clear. No pamphlets. So I hope that helps. And just so you know, we were really devastated by that as well. It was not something we carved it out for that purpose, and it was unfortunate that we didn't get all of the things that we wanted. But in the whole scheme of things, the global view of this project, we got really what we wanted. We got the property, and we're controlling our development.
All right. Thank you.
Great, Erica. Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard at this time?
Hi, Mayor Mark Savastano.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Good, thank you. 22 Greenland Place. My concerns about what I'm hearing and after listening to the audio from the last meeting, the changes that are being made, and how that affects my neighborhood because I live right next to this development. And the changes with the truck traffic, the hours, the number of units, and I know the traffic's going to increase. That all has an effect on the quality of life of this neighborhood. And I understand what Amy is saying about trying to get the best deal possible for that piece of property, but it seems that it's going to be an impossible task for any of the people living in the neighborhood to make any real adjustment if you're tailoring the purchase to this particular developer. So that developer is pleased with what he can put there, which is not necessarily what's best for the neighborhood or for Allendale. That's a grave concern for me. I've lived here for 16 years in this home in Allendale since 1998. So I'm not happy with what I'm hearing and what the possible changes that people speaking up at the meeting after this purchase is approved are really going to make during the land use meeting that comes afterwards. And would this purchaser of the property walk away, or are they bound to build whatever we prescribe is going to be acceptable to both the council and the neighborhood?
Mark, it was a negotiation. It wasn't that they're just getting whatever they want. It was a lot of back and forth and negotiation. I mean, they actually did agree to the senior housing. It wasn't the developer per se, that said they didn't want it. It was actually a federal law that was brought to our attention kind of in the 11th hour. So there's definitely been a lot of give and take on both ends. I do not feel like we've been taken by this developer. In fact, I'm very, very pleased that we could go through with this development after, listening and reading and finding out what's going on in all the other communities, like Mawa that's building 1,000 units, like Montvale, like Englewood Cliffs and Wayne, who have builder's remedy, which is going to cause their property to be zoned for high density housing. So I do feel that, I know, maybe it's a shock because we wanted in a Pollyannic world only 20 units there, but that's just, the developer obviously has to make money too. So it is, is a negotiation, but we have been going back and forth. And I do feel that the developer has been very fair. Liz Holman, you're on the team with me. You can comment to the developer's point too, and our negotiation with them. But I do not feel that we've been had or taken by this developer at all, which
that's not my point, Amy. I don't feel like you've been taken. I'm certain that you went into negotiations and forcefully tried to get the best deal possible. My concern is what was originally presented to the public at the meeting where this whole development was brought forth, and what we're seeing now is very different as far as the traffic, the number of units, the type of storage facility. It's changed significantly, and the fact that we are not finding out about it until you're ready to vote on it is disappointing. I can understand your need to proceed, negotiate in good faith, but we were left out. We didn't get as much information as we would have liked as public.
So, Mark, I want the borough attorney to, because there were some inaccuracies in what you said, and I don't want to clarify them to poke fun or to say you're wrong. I want to clarify for the record in terms of putting to a vote, et cetera. So,
I would just say that while there may have been some early on, and I'm sure there were early on conceptual discussions about what would be idyllic, going as far back as I would say December of 2018, the original contract and the original redevelopment plan contemplated 60 residential units. So the only change that was effectuated based on the dynamic that I talked about before, the changed economic circumstances and the ongoing negotiations with the developer in terms of additional residential units, was from 60 to 70. As was explained, while the borough had attempted to make a portion of those age restricted, the federal housing law provides that it is reverse discrimination, that when you have that age restriction in place, you are limiting the market to people who are not of that age. So that was a legal impediment to being able to do that. But understand that this project for well over a year has contemplated 60 residential units, and that change of increase is to 70. And in terms of some of the impacts of the warehouse versus the storage facility, some of the trade-offs there were to try to limit the trucking hours within the amended redevelopment plan to try to address that. And I think, Mark, some of the things that you're referring to may very well be the type of questions that will be posed by you in terms of impacts on the local neighborhood and how they're being addressed, whether to your satisfaction or not to your satisfaction, that will play out at the hearing before the land use board.
Okay. And Mr. Wiss, I'm not doubting anything that the council members and yourself have done. I'm just seeing a little bit of creep to where this is going, and it's concerning me again because of my proximity to the development. So,
and I think that's fair comment by you, and I think that the governing body is and has been over the course of the meetings. I mean, you've been in attendance at a large part of them. It has been an extended and incremental process, because it is very complicated with the three aspects of the project, and each one of those having a relationship to something else, such as our fair share housing obligation and trying to be least impactful. I mean, I think if you take it back to even before December of 2 years ago, that most of the other expressed interest by developers in the property was for very intensive residential development. Some of those proposals called for up to 150 housing units on that property, which was something that the borough resisted very, very strong against. So I think that there's no question, you're right, that there are impacts that have to be looked at and assessed. But the council has been, and I've been a part of the negotiations, the council has been very, very aware of trying to minimize the impact. And this proposal from among the proposals received was the, I'll say, least impactful. Now, how that ultimately fits in with your sensitivities and the overall community sensitivities, that will play out before the land use board.
okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
So we're near the waning minutes of the work session. So anyone else from the public wish to be heard at this time? Not seeing any, we will close it to the public for this part of the meeting. And so 7:58, what do you recommend, Ray?
I think since the agenda is short, we can just address each of the agenda items as we come to them in the regular meeting, and we'll just reconvene in the 2 minutes.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're not going to continue with the work session. We would have to open up the regular session, close it, come back to the work session. We're not going to do that, but we will discuss. We'll do the agenda review in the regular session. Before we vote on it, we'll discuss it, and so that everyone will get to follow. So at this time, I would request a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
So moved, O'Connell.
Don't all jump at once. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Who
Oh,
got the
second.
motion
No,
in a
so
second?
Steve Sassett was first and Ed O'Connell was second.
Okay.
And then unanimously, loudly, they all were in favor and said aye. All right, we'll be back in a minute. Thank you. Okay. Hello, everyone. We are back. It is now 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. This is July 9th, 2020, regular session of the Allendale Mayor and Council. Welcome to everyone who is joining us via video and via teleconference. At this time, I would request that you mute your devices so as not to distract from the business of the meeting. There will be 2 opportunities during this meeting for the public to speak, and we will advise you at the appropriate times. So, Michelle, if you could please read the Open Public Meeting Act announcement.
Sure. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year confirmed at the annual meeting are posted on the public bulletin board in the municipal building, published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year, and copies are sent to the Ridgewood News and Star Ledger.
Thank you. All please rise to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle, if you can please conduct the roll call.
Sure. Councilwoman Homan,
Here.
Councilman O'Connell,
Here.
Councilman O'Toole,
Here.
Councilman Sasso,
Here.
Councilman Strouch,
Here. Here.
Councilwoman Wilsinski,
Here.
and Mayor Bernstein.
Here, thank you. So next is the approval of the minutes. And Michelle, so I get this right, the original agenda said both the work and the regular session minutes?
Yes.
Okay,
correct.
but we are not. Tonight up for approval is just the work session minutes from May 28th, 2020. So I would request a motion to approve those minutes. Can everyone vote? Because everyone was here?
Yes. everyone
Okay.
is-
I request a motion to approve the work session, May 28th, 2020 minutes.
So moved, O'Toole.
Thank you, Matt. Second?
Second
Omen.
Strouch.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Homan. Michelle, please conduct a roll call.
Sure. Councilwoman Homan,
Yes.
Councilman O'Connell,
Yes.
Councilman O'Toole,
Yes.
Councilman Sasso,
Yes.
Councilman Strouch,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wilsinski.
Yes.
And I think here would probably be an appropriate time to review the items on the consent agenda before the public opportunity to speak
Great.
to them.
Thank you for that, Council. So since I now will be opening the meeting to the public on agenda items only, let me go through the agenda so that everyone understands what's on the agenda if you have a question regarding agenda items. So 20-173 is the approval of the bill list. I reviewed it. Councilman O'Toole?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wazinski?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Next, 20-174, authorize the purchase of the Timco Model 435 Comdex sweeper, the ESCNJ cooperative pricing system. So that we're authorizing the purchase of a much needed street sweeper for the DPW. If Ron was here, I would ask him if he wanted to speak. But that's what
This
that's
is through a state cooperative purchasing system.
right. So we need it. It's a good deal. Next, 20-175, authorize 2020 salaries, supplement number 3 for the Crestwood Lake Swim Club. This resolution approves the hire of additional staff for Crestwood Lake. So Amy, if you have anything you need to add to that, you can. If not, I'll just keep going.
Nope, keep going.
Okay, great. Next on the agenda is 20-176 to approve the restated purchase and sale of 220-230 West Crescent Avenue. And so this is the continuation of the journey and the process. This is the contract that was signed by Mayor Emeritus Liz White in 2018. And that we've been moving forward, and I'm going to special thanks to Councilwomen Wazinski and Homan, who have worked tirelessly on this, probably daily. Mayor Emeritus Vince Barra, Mayor Emeritus White, and Borough Attorneys Ray Wiss and Tom Borgi for the countless hours that they have spent. We're not done, but this is a continuation of that journey that started years ago. So Amy, if you'd like to speak to this, I'd be happy to yield the floor to you.
I think you've said most of it. This is, as you said, a lot of work went into this. I'm really excited that we actually have the purchase and sale, on the agenda. It was a very large document that took hours and back and forth. And again, thanks to everybody for all their help. It really dovetails in from the redevelopment plan that was just adopted last meeting. And really, it's a result of the natural outgrowth of the due diligence and the progression of this project. So, as we mentioned, we do have the more units. That was part of this. The legal age restriction had to be addressed. That was part of this, the fair share housing piece and the environmental piece. So we should have everything all wrapped up and onward and upward to continuing this journey and come to the closing. So thanks again, everybody, for all your help.
Great, thank you, Amy, and thank you for all your efforts. Anyone else? Ray, anything?
I think that covers the consent agenda. Now you can move to the public comment.
Great, so that was for purposes to skip ahead to go through the consent agenda. So now I will open the meeting to the public for on agenda items only. And to Kristen and Erica and Mark, I know you've already spoken during the work session, which was fine. So I don't know if there's anything further, but procedurally, I want to open the meeting. Erica? Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
Erica Lewenberg, 100 Midwood Avenue. And I did want to ask just a couple more questions about the purchase. Just to understand, I understand that there was a legal age restriction to because we were asking for 20 of the units. When there are 55-year-old and older developments, Amy, you had said that it's not lucrative. Is that one of the reasons why the developer didn't focus on 55 and over as an alternative, as opposed to taking out any seniors, but using the seniors as a focal point?
Well, so the developer actually was working with us, and they were going to have the senior units, as part of the plan. For them to be in compliance with the law, the entire, I should say the entire, but I think it was 85% of the units had to be senior. And that wasn't the deal that we negotiated with them. And that senior rentals do not generate enough as much revenue as regular market rate units. Even when we were planning the 20 units on there, we actually had to have a clause in there that if they did not get rented out, because they had a big
Amy,
concern.
I'm sorry, my computer lost all of that you just said.
That's okay.
The audio went.
Yeah, that's okay. So in order for it to be legal, 80% or 85% of all the units had to be 55 and over. So when we had that carved out piece, we negotiated that. And first they were not happy about it, and there was a lot of back and forth. And they even put a clause in there because they were concerned that not all of the units would be rented. So there was a clause in there that if they didn't rent within a certain amount of months, for example, that they could revert back to market rate units. So for them to convert the whole entire project to over 55 was not the deal that we negotiated with them. And for them to do that, it probably would have affected the purchase price, because over 55, there's not a big market. And I actually double checked that too with our redevelopment expert. It's not a big market for that. And they don't make as much money, I guess, as regular units, if it's carved out for 55 in general. So the profit margin would have been decreased. Thus, our pilot actually would have been decreased as well.
Yeah, and this really wasn't a matter of resistance by the developer.
Not at all.
This was just as a matter of law. The borough was not allowed to, the goal was originally of the 60 contemplated units from the original contract, that 20 of them were going to be age restricted, although even the age restricted units were going to be at market price, and that was acceptable to the developer. So the change wasn't the resistance of the developer. The change was the advice from our co-op planner that this may not be permissible as a matter of law. That led the borough to retain special counsel on that issue, who after much research confirmed that the borough's goal was not achievable as a matter of law. So this really wasn't about the developer balking.
Well, my question also was about, again, back to the negotiation. Could the negotiation have been that it was a 55 and older community, which would have cut on, you know, families with children that would possibly stress our school systems, or some of the traffic flow, or different things like that? I understand the law, but in terms of the negotiation, I was wondering if that could have been a piece of it, or was that put on the table that, yes, let's have 85% of the unit be designated to.
I suppose all things are possible, but I don't think that was ever the contemplation from the inception of the negotiations. In other words, I think that the developer, when the 60 unit number was struck, the developer's contemplation would have been that they would have all been non-age restricted market units. It was the borough who negotiated for and imposed the 20 unit senior, because that was something that the borough was hoping to attain. It was only being frustrated by the law that led to our not being able to get that. It wasn't as a result of any negotiations, but from the developer's vantage point, they were never contemplating a fully age restricted community. That was the borough that was trying to achieve that.
That makes no sense. What sense does that make?
If someone spoke, I didn't hear it. Okay. So
This is Kristen Sarnitz. I just have to clarify something that you just said, Amy. I was confused because last week at the meeting, Mr. Wisks clarified at the work session, which I listened to on audio, that the 20 senior units were never going to be below market. They were always going to be market rate. So how, if when we found out about that legal requirement that we couldn't age restrict, and we went back to the builder and said, hey, we can't age restrict this anymore, what difference does it make to them if we can or we can't? Because they were always expecting, let's see, 61 market.
So I'm going to, just so we can, Kristen, I want to hear your question. If you're not speaking, please mute your phone, because there's some background noise that's coming through to all of us. Kristen, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to make sure that you were heard.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, Kristen, I didn't hear that last part that you were confused. So what, they were not going to be below market rate, correct? That is correct.
Right, so like the senior ones we were asking for were never going to be below market rate. So when you just made the comment a minute ago that once we found out about that legal requirement, you know, the builder didn't want to, you know, if we had to put in 85%, if we shifted and said 85% of these units are going to be senior building, but they're all market rate, what difference does it make to the builder in terms of his revenue? I don't really think it's,
because they don't generate as much revenue as if it's the inclusive of 85% of it of being over 55, it doesn't generate as much revenue as if it's regular families under 55.
Why not? If it's the same rate.
Don't forget, market rate is not a fixed price. So the market for senior citizen units may not be exactly the same, and I think this is the point that was being made, is not the same as the market rate for non-age restricted units. Distinguish that from the affordable housing use of the term low and moderate.
Right.
So those are restricted by specific numbers under the Fair Share Housing Guidelines. I think the comment is that market rate, although both are market rate for age restricted units by virtue of the restriction tend to command a little bit of a lower price than market rate for non-age restricted units. That'd be the only differential that I draw.
Thank you. I just find that a little surprising given what Erica pointed out before about how many more seniors there are going to be over the next 10 years. I don't think there would be one single empty apartment. That's it.
I
Thank you.
think these are going to be very attractive irrespective for some of the reasons mentioned before, and the demographic may very well turn out to be of qualification age for age-restricted units, just based on the proximity that was referred to before of transportation and to the center of town. Also, the bedrooms being limited in number are also going to tend, and this was something that the borough did look at, are going to tend to mitigate against a school population. So in terms of impact, the fact that these are not 3, 4, 5 bedroom units is also going to add to what the demographic may be. And again, I would think also that that will be something that probably the developer will be testifying to at the time of the land use hearing, what their anticipated demographic is. They'll be able to speak to that certainly better than I could.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wish to be heard on agenda items only? Not seeing anyone. We will close it to the public on agenda items. And now we've gone over the consent agenda. So I would request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Great.
Second.
That's Councilman Sasso and Amy Wazinski for the second. Michelle, please conduct a roll call.
Councilwoman Homan,
Yes.
Councilman O'Connell,
Yes.
Councilman O'Toole,
Yes.
Councilman Sasso,
Yes.
Councilman Strouch,
Yes.
and Councilwoman Wozinski.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Any unfinished business? I don't believe so. Any new business?
All right, can I just say one word?
Sure.
Before we move off this topic, I just want to take a second to personally thank my council colleagues, Amy Wazinski and Liz Holman, for all the work that they've done on the just before mentioned task. I mean, we work together on other items, so I get little bits and pieces of how many meetings they have and how many calls, and it's absolutely unbelievable how much time that they put into this. And although they're elected officials and public servants, they still are volunteers, of course. So they receive no compensation for it. And I can tell you that their dedication to this project is only paralleled by their modesty. And I want to thank them.
Thank you, Steve.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, so now we will go on to committee reports. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be real quick. The only thing I really have is the Junior Police Academy will be finishing up this Friday. Amid the COVID epidemic, they managed to get a class through. I believe there's 42 students, and they had a great time from what I could see. The only other thing is we had a tentative law and public safety meeting for July 14th. I've been checking with Chief Sherb on his recovery, and everyone will be getting an email hopefully in the next day or two, depending on whether he's available or not. Otherwise, we'll push it off for another week. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Councilman Sasso.
The Land Use Committee has not met since our last council meeting last week, but we are scheduled to meet on July 20th, Monday, which is the 51st anniversary of the moon landing and also the birthday of a certain former mayor who was also on the call. So we'll be meeting at 7:45 Monday, July 20th.
Thank you. Councilwoman Holman.
Sure. Thank you, first of all, to the community for their efforts to conserve water and to comply with the phase 2 water restrictions. We are continuing to monitor the levels of our wells and the water tanks daily. I have continued discussions with both Lane, who helps out in water from our DPW. He's excellent, as well as Suez. The Monday recharge day of no watering has been very helpful to the system. I mean, our area continues to be in need of water, and it's definitely not due to the fault of anybody on the water committee or Suez. This really is just a situation of Mother Nature. And I'm hopeful that by all of our residents being so wonderful and continue on the phase 2 restrictions,
that we will not need to move to phase 3 water restrictions, which, just so I give a heads up, would be 3 days of no watering. So we'd have 3 days of recharging the wells. But right now we're still on level 2, which is great. But if a resident does have a hardship where they would need to use water outside of the restrictions, they can either contact the borough or myself via email. Also, the water committee has been having meetings with Suez on many reports that are required to the NJDEP. Just today, we met on the water quality sampling report. Suez is also gathering data as we've requested to look at seeing if there's a more efficient way to meter read and bill customers. And lastly, Mott McDonald has communicated to me that they are working on the final stages of the PFAS treatment feasibility study that I've been talking about. And my thoughts are that we will probably set up some virtual water meetings with the public. And the idea would be to overview our current water system, provide insight into what the borough's future needs and options look like. And it's all good. So everybody go do a rain dance. And thanks for
tomorrow, I think, right? Tomorrow we're getting water.
You keep hoping.
My son said he's going to Crestwood tomorrow. I said, no, you're not.
Yeah.
It'll rain.
I'm hopeful we'll have a nice steady rain.
Great. Thank you, Liz. Councilwoman Wazinski.
Sure. Okay. So Crestwood Lake is doing great. Our revenues are up and they keep going up. So people are really enjoying our beautiful lake. Members have been wonderful and respectful. They really have not been complaining at all about the social distancing, and they've been wearing their masks when they're supposed to, and they love their social squares. So it really has all been working out great. This week, we opened up 2 diving boards, and we actually opened up under the pavilion area for seniors only. Both were okayed by the county health inspector. So the kids are super happy that they can use the diving board, and our seniors are super happy that they can enjoy some shade. Our playground was just open, so thanks to Ron and the crew for working hard to get that open and removing that dead tree that was in there. And our sports are going well, so everybody's out and enjoying the nice summer weather. We will be starting to send out constant contact emails with just kind of bullet points on some borough information. So look out for that, and I think that's it for me.
Great, thank you very much.
Amy, is the pavilion a 55 and older pavilion?
We just said seniors, so actually seniors at Crestwood is 62. So sorry, Steve, you're too young.
Councilman O'Toole?
Yes, sir. The Administration, HR, and Finance Committee met earlier this evening. We discussed some personnel matters. We discussed the rate numbers coming out of Crestwood. Everyone's very happy about that. The nights out where we were closing down Main Street had a lot of positive feedback on that, so we've been asked to perhaps look at ways of expanding that and doing it a little more frequently. We'll be looking at that. And we also discussed some interns, perhaps. More discussions need to be had on that, but that's about everything.
Great, thank you. Councilman Strouch.
Thank you, Mayor Bernstein. Okay, my DPW report. I want to start by thanking Richie McDowell, who has every year seems to be getting a little bit better at attaining a nice water quality at Crestwood Lake. It's nice when the water's clear, and I think Rich is growing knowledge of the balance of and the chemicals to use is a big part of that. As you already heard, we purchased a sweeper, or we've authorized the purchase of a sweeper, which I'm glad that we've done it. It's been a while since Allendale's had its own sweeper. For many years, we borrowed and shared one that the county had, and recently we've been hiring a sweeper service. So it's nice that we're going to get that operation back in-house so that we have more flexibility to deploy the sweeper whenever we see fit. The DPW crews have also been busy keeping the sports fields in good shape because the camps and the summer leagues all started last week. And from the inspections that I've done of the fields, it looks like they're all in great shape. And the other big deal in the DPW is that the 2020 municipal paving contract was awarded to D&L Paving, and the work is scheduled to start prior to Labor Day. So I'm looking forward to that. And lastly, a new set of hydraulic lifts have been ordered that will allow Dan Richards to work on larger equipment down at the DPW building on New Street. So it's all progressing well, and you know, I'm happy with what the DPW department has been doing. And I want to thank Ron, Tatiana, Michelle, and all the staff that have been helping to make sure that the DPW crews can perform their functions. And Mark Savastano is going to give a little update on the Recycling Advisory Committee. So I'm going to leave that for him. Thank you, Mayor Birdstein.
Great, thank you very much. So I will give you my mayor's report. I'd like to start with we lost an officer, police officer Andrew Baum, who passed away on July 5th. Police Officer Baum served the Allendale community for 27 years, was instrumental in establishing the K-9 program, guiding agencies throughout Bergen County to establish their programs as well. So if you could please just join me for a brief moment of silence to remember Officer Baum. Thank you. Thank you very much. Continuing with my report, the COVID numbers, as I know there were some conversations after the meeting last week in terms of the jump in our number. I just wanted to say it again. I know people had clarified, people who had listened and clarified on different websites, on different social media sites, which I was appreciative for. We didn't have a spike in the number of an additional 37 cases. These were numbers, these were no new cases. These were old cases in March and April that were not reported. And so it was just a correction of the numbers. So I say it again, nothing has changed since my report the last time, but people see the new number and they wanted to know what was going on. So I thought it bared repeating. Governor Murphy continues the reopening of New Jersey while continuing to follow the rate of transmission stats. For the first time in 10 weeks, the rate in New Jersey has gone above the mark of 1, which means on an average, every newly infected resident is now passing the virus on to at least one other person. So we've gone over 1 for the first time, but that's one of the lowest numbers of all the states. So while it's a little alarming in that it's gone over it, we are on the lower side, and it's being monitored by state officials. As a result of that, and perhaps other things, yesterday Governor Murphy signed an executive order making it mandatory to wear a face mask outside when social distancing is difficult or impossible. I implore everyone to continue to heed the call and to keep yourselves and your families healthy and safe. I know it's uncomfortable to wear a mask in the summer when it's warm, etc. But it's the easiest thing we can do to protect all of us, and it can be, in many cases, it can be a matter of life and death. So we don't want to, we particularly Allendale, we have been so good at heeding the caution and doing the right thing. So I'm going to continue to urge all of us collectively to do what we can for ourselves, our friends, and our family. Tuesday was the primary election. Michelle, thank you for all of your efforts with that. This was primarily a vote by mail. But there was a voting machine available at Borough Hall and the mayor and council chambers for the certified physically disabled voters and anyone who is illiterate. Everything went well. Bergen County Board of Elections is busy verifying and counting all of the ballots. As soon as we receive the results, we will post a link on our website. As Councilman O'Toole stated, we continue our collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce and our restaurants to offer dine out in Allendale. The third one is this Saturday, July 11th. So if you recall, we closed down to the traffic from 4:30 to 10:30, and the restaurants can serve in the street from 5 to 10. The first two were successful. There's been discussions. We are going to continue to explore whether we do this every other week or we do it. People want to do it. We want to do what we can to support the restaurants. So I don't believe this is the last of it. Motor Vehicle Commission opened up this week to very long lines. Governor Murphy has announced in an effort to help ease the backlogs that the locations will be open 6 days a week. And I saw also that there were that there were no expirations during this period. I think right. Registrations, license, inspections, veteran Purple Heart placards have expired between March and May, have been given extensions until July 31. So you don't have to worry about it being out of time. Documents that are expiring on June 30th have been extended until August 31st. And those expiring on July 31st have been extended to September 30th. So for questions, you can go to their website, state.nj.us/MVC for more information. As Amy said, Monday organized sports activities were resumed, as well as youth day camps and summer programs. New Jersey Transit expanded rail and light rail service, and check out their website, njtransit.com, for more information. And as a reminder, the recycling center is open to all residents, and the compost facility is open to all 2020 permit holders. And the borough's administrative offices are working as usual through, though the buildings still remain closed to the public. Please contact the particular office to make arrangements to conduct your business. Contact information is on your website. And while I have both Michelle and Ron here, I want to thank you, and repeatedly. I know you don't want the thanks, and I know you don't want the attention, but what the two of you do on a daily basis to keep the borough running, as well as everyone else, we are very, very much appreciated. So that is the end of my mayor's report. Attorney Ray Wiss, anything you'd like to report?
Very briefly, since our last meeting, which wasn't too long ago, one might guess that a lot of the time was on 220, 230, bringing it to tonight's fruition in terms of the contract. Other than that, normal course matters, reopening issues, contract issues, negotiation.
Great.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michelle, anything to report?
Thank you. I just wanted to give a big thank you to Ron, Tatiana, Dan Richards, Rich McDowell, and Kate, our intern, for helping to make the election on Tuesday go so smoothly. It was truly a team effort.
Right. Well, yeah, thank you. Mr. Gisner?
Thank you. I had nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Been quiet, right? Okay, so now the third and final time that we open the meeting to the public. So anyone from the public who wishes to be heard on any matter? Hey, Kristen.
Hello again.
Hello.
I just have a few questions. I know that we are trying to get, Mark is going to give a recycling update, so I just have two questions prior to that. Regarding the resolution 20-153 that was passed on June 11th, this is the one that authorized bids for the environmental remediation of 230 West Crescent. Can you just give a little detail on the timing expected for the remediation? Is it independent of Hampshire's building process, or do we have to wait until everything with them is approved, their plans are approved, and they move forward? And then also, will the New Jersey DEP be overseeing that project, the remediation part?
Correct. So the closing of the property is contingent on the cleanup. We just received 6 bids today, and once we have this section, it's a small area underneath the parking lot. It's already delineated. Once that is cleaned up and the papers are submitted to the New Jersey DEP and EPA, then, and a couple other documents get worked out, then we proceed with the closing. So we have an LSRP, which is a deputy of the DEP, who is actually going to be overseeing the project and who we've been working with.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, all right. So, and then another resolution I had a question about is Resolution 20-155. The June 11 minutes, state that the borough will have to pay for the disposal of recycling until the market recovers. Does that actually mean disposal as in those recycled materials or recycling that people have collected become garbage, like thrown in the garbage? Or does it mean that the materials will still get recycled? The borough just now has to pay for them to get recycled instead of receiving revenue for it. And did that get into the budget if we have to pay for it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. I've been reading a lot about the recycling industry, and there is basically no market right now. And the person that we were using, the company that we were using, is not in existence anymore. So we had to switch to another one. And since there's no market, we actually had to pay to get them hauled away. They're supposed to be recycling them. I can't tell you that for sure since there's no market. I'm not sure how they're doing it, but we had trust fund money. We have trust fund money that is put aside for recycling. So that's where the money came out of. But no, it was not initially in our budget. So we had to actually come up with that money. So hopefully, we're all hopeful. All our environmental folks, my cohort, Liz Homan too, we are always trying to promote recycling and sustainability in the borough of Allendale. So we're hoping the recycling industry will have a turnaround soon, and there'll be more recycling centers in the US, because currently right now, not only is there not a market, but there's also no centers that can handle all of our recycling since China stopped taking our recycles.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It really is, yeah.
When you said the trust fund money, what do you mean by that?
It's an account that we sometimes get grants for. So over the years, our recycling has been great. So we sometimes get some grant money from the state, and we put it in what we call a recycling trust. It's just like an account that we have that we use just for recycling and that sort of thing. Everything in the municipality has to kind of be tagged what you spend it for. So that's just tagged for recycling.
Is there money left in that account if we encounter this problem on an ongoing basis for a year or two?
There is. I'm not sure. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there is some money in that account. But we can budget for it next year. So this was a surprise this year. Next year we can budget for it, but we're hoping that the recycle industry will change. But yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hi, Mayor Mark Savastano, 22 Freeland Place.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, I'll speak, I'll just carry on the conversation that was taking place and echo Amy's concerns and Kristen's concerns with the state of recycling. Before I get specific about what we're doing here in town, the ultimate goal is to make sure that things do in fact get recycled. And what I found out through my research is that since China has stopped accepting our items, the companies that are collecting recyclables are now shipping them to other Asian nations or just burning them in open fires.
Dumping them, yeah.
You've heard that too, Amy?
Yeah.
And that's very disturbing to me because clearly we're not achieving anything if they're being burned that way. And having recycling centers here in the U.S. is the goal, and of course, to make sure that things do, in fact, get recycled. A positive note is what I did find when I visited Polymold in Haskell, and they, in fact, do take the materials and create something else out of them that is useful. And that's what we want to achieve, not just putting them in barrels and sending them off somewhere and hoping for the best. So in that regard, I found that the surrounding communities are all very interested in the efforts that we're making to participate in the styrofoam recycling. I've spoken to Wyckoff and many other surrounding municipalities, and they're prepared to participate with us and join with us in the effort. I'm working with Jim to set up a pilot collection here in town, and work with Glen Rock with their recycling program, and then ultimately, if it can't be made a regular part of our recycling, then have regular collections where the residents can bring them and know that we're bringing them somewhere that it's actually going to be put to use. The very important statistic that I found out, and Amy, I think you'll find this interesting, is that styrofoam takes up 30% of the space in our landfills.
Yeah, I believe it.
That's an amazing statistic. And the way that we can avoid using styrofoam at all for useless items, I've become aware of the island of Samoa is making plates out of banana leaves. It sounds amusing, but
Are they dishwasher? Can they put them in the dishwasher? That's all I want to know.
well, the idea is that it's a material that does not last forever in a landfill. And it's an idea that should be promoted. And we can chuckle at it, but
I think it's a great idea. I think it's very ingenious.
The serious issue is it's something that would just fall into the ground and be wasted. And here it is something that we can use to not use styrofoam. So I'm very excited about what we're doing, Mayor. And without taking up too much time, I'm just looking forward to this becoming part of our recycling program.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you for all of your help, assistance, your interest, your thoughts. You've been very helpful. Appreciate that. Good. Anyone else wish to be heard? Not seeing anyone, we'll close it to the public. We are at the end of the meeting. To everyone who appeared and inquired and spoke, we truly appreciate it. As I said at the last meeting, we play to empty houses week after week or every other week. So to know that you're out there and you're listening and you're interested and you have questions, we thank you for that.
I'd just like to say hi to Walter. We miss you, Walter.
Hey, hi, Walter.
A shout out.
He has not missed one council meeting in a full year. So it's so good to see you on virtually.
Yeah, it absolutely
He's our only
is.
one that ever comes to the council meetings.
Right. No, it is. I'm looking forward to seeing him in person, and it's good to see him via this. So thank you for that, Amy. I would request a motion to adjourn the regular session.
So moved.
Great. Second?
Second.
Second, Amy. First, Homan. Second, Wazinski. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Be well.
Thanks.
All right. Good night, everyone.